Hello everyone, step into CodeVibes, the creative world of Mahmoud Ibrahim, where every project blends innovation, style, and flavor. Welcome to Coffee Hub, your perfect coffee experience. Coffee Hub is a fully responsive, modern, and stylish coffee shop website built to showcase delicious drinks and grow a brand. This project blends warm visuals, refined typography, and smooth interactions to create an immersive online coffee experience. Project includes responsive homepage with a bold hero and inviting tagline, interactive menu, images, descriptions, and prices for each drink. About us, brand story, and atmosphere. Special offers, time-limited deals, and happy hour cards to boost conversions. What customers say, testimonials section showing real customer love and social proof. Contact form, easy way for visitors to message you. Polished UI touches, hover effects, image zooms, and smooth transitions. Perfect for demoing a coffee shop website or using as a base for a real cafe. Let's fly into our codes. Now, we're going to start by adding the link to our CSS file. At the very top of our CSS, I will notice a comment section. Here we'll keep notes for fonts and resets. First, we select all elements to set margin, 0, padding, 0, and box sizing. Border box to make sure everything starts clean and consistent. Next, we move to the body element. Here, we're setting the font family. But how do we get that font? As appearing here on my HTML file, we head over to Google Fonts, type here on search button byfont name, click on it, and then click on Get Font. Grab the embed code. We paste that into our HTML file, and then how to add our font on CSS file, copy the font name into our CSS file, and just like that, our site gets its own personality through typography.now. Let's talk about the line height property. To see it in action, we'll write a simple paragraph. As we see, line height by default is very hard to read, so we are going to our CSS file and set line height 1.6. Refresh the page, and there it is. The space between lines has increased, making our text easier to read and visually more appealing. All right, let's jump back into our CSS file and keep building. The color property is set to number 3E to 7 to 3, a rich, coffee-inspired brown that ties into our cafe theme perfectly. For the background color, we're using hashtag FFF8F0, a soft, warm cream shade that gives our page a cozy, inviting atmosphere. Moving on, we style our headings H1, H2, and H3 with Playfair display serif. This font is elegant and adds a professional, high-end cafe feel to our titles. Finally, we have the .container class. We set width 90% to make it responsive, a max width of 1 to 0px to prevent content from stretching to wide, and margin auto to center everything beautifully on the page. With just these few rules, we've set the tone, style, and overall feel for our coffee website. And now we're going to start building our website structure, beginning with the header. Our header will include a navigation bar for smooth browsing and social media links so visitors can easily connect with us across platforms, a clean, eye-catching logo. I'm starting my structure, just as I mentioned earlier, with the header element. Inside, I'll place a nav element and give it the class navbar container. This navigation will contain a div for our logo image, and I'll assign this div the class logo. Inside it, I'll place our image tag with the source set to images, logo1.jpg, and an alternate text of Coffee Hub logo for accessibility. Next, I'm adding our navigation links inside an unordered list with the class nav links. Let's speed it up to save your time. Each list item contains an anchor tag that links to a section of our page using its ID. The first link points to hashtag home and has the class active so it can be highlighted as the current section. Then we have links to hashtag menu, hashtag about, hashtag offers, hashtag testimonials, and finally hashtag contact. This structure keeps our navigation organized and makes it easy for users to jump to different sections of our website. Here, I'm styling the header with a background color and some padding and position it as a sticky position so it stays at the top. The navbar uses Flexbox to space items evenly and align them center. The logo image is set to 50 by 50 pixels. With rounded edges. Navigation links are displayed in a row with no bullets, spaced out with margins. Each link has white text, turns gold on hover, and the active link is highlighted. Now just one thing left is to insert our logo to HTML. Let's do it and see what has happened. Let's build our section hero to be like this one. This section is our hero area at the top of the page. I've given it an ID of home like I mentioned above. Then I will give it a class of hero for styling. Inside, there's a hero overlay div for adding a dark overlay effect. Then we have the hero text div, which holds a main heading, a short description with the Coffee Hub name highlighted in a span, and finally a call to action button linking to the menu section. Now let's jump into our CSS file to style this section. Here's the styling for our hero section. The dot hero takes up 90% of the viewport height and uses a centered background image that covers the entire area. The dot hero overlay adds a semi-transparent black layer to make text stand out and uses Flexbox to center everything both vertically and horizontally. Our heading and paragraph are styled for size and spacing, with the span inside the paragraph getting a gold highlight color. And now I am going to style our button. We have a BTN class for our call to action. It's rounded, bold, and changes color with a smooth hover effect, giving it a nice interactive feel. The hero title here doesn't match exactly with our live website. That's because our current site isn't responsive yet, so we've made a temporary design adjustment for this demo. Once we finish the responsive version, everything will look perfectly consistent across all devices. Now let's go and check the next part of our website, the menu section. As you can see here, we have our products displayed with clear descriptions and prices, making it easy for customers to choose their favorite coffee. Here in the menu section HTML, we start with a section tag with the ID menu and to classes, menu and container. This helps us style it and keep it responsive. Inside, we have an H to greater than heading with the class section title to display the title, our menu. Then, we use a div with the class menu grid. This is our main layout container for the menu items. Each product is wrapped inside a div greater than with the class menu item. Inside every menu item, we have an im tag showing the coffee image and H3 for the product name, a P paragraph for the description, and finally a span showing the price. We repeat this structure for each product. Here we have espresso, latte, and cappuccino. Let's speed it up to save your time. Here's our menu section. Now let's move on to the CSS and style it so we can see what happens. We're going to start by styling the .section-title class because it's used across all our sections, so the style will be consistent throughout the whole website. Now let's style our menu section. First, .menu grid is set to display grid with grid template columns using repeat autofit, min-max to 5OPX, 1FR. This means the layout will automatically adjust to fit as many columns as possible, with each card being at least 250 pixels wide and flexible up to full width. We also give it a gap of 20 pixels to add space between items. For each .menu dash item, we set a white background, rounded corners with border radius 10px, some padding inside, and text align center. We also add a subtle box shadow to make the cards pop and a transition so they animate smoothly when hovered. The .menu item im takes 100% width, also with rounded corners and a margin bottom to create space under the image. On .menu dash item hover, we scale it up slightly with transform, scale 1.05. This gives a nice interactive feel. The .menu item span is styled with an orange color and bold font weight to make the price stand out. Finally, the hashtag menu ID has a margin bottom of 30 pixels to create space below this section before the next one. Let's see what's next. As we can see, it's the About section. Now, let's go to our HTML and start typing it. Here's our About section HTML. We start with a section tag with the ID about and to classes, about and container, so we can style it and keep it aligned with the rest of the website. Inside, we have a div with the class about text that holds the text content. First, there's an H2 with the class section title for the heading About Us. Then we add a P paragraph describing our coffee shop, coffee hub, talking about our quality beans, warm atmosphere, and friendly environment. Below that, there's an A greater than tag styled as a button with the classes BTN and secondary BTN, linking to the contact section, and it says visit us single quotes. Next to the text, we have another div with the class about im containing an im greater than tag that shows the About Coffee Hub image. This gives the section a nice split between text and visuals. Now let's style our About section. We start with .about, setting it to display. Flex so the text and image sit side by side. We use Flex Wrap to make it responsive on smaller screens, add a gap of 30 pixels between elements, and use Align Items. Center to align everything vertically. For About text, we give it Flex, so it takes equal space with the image. Set it as a flex container in a column direction, and add a larger gap of 60 pixels between its elements. The About text A is given text align. Center to center, the button the about dash img also gets flex. One to share space equally, and its image is set to width 100% with border radius 10px2. Keep the rounded corner style consistent. The secondary BTN has a transparent background, a gold border and text color, and on hover, the background switches to gold while the text changes to a dark coffee color, giving a nice interactive effect. Finally, the hashtag About ID has a margin bottom of 20 pixels to create space below this section before moving to the next. Now, let's check our next section. It's the Special Offers section. Let's go back into our HTML and start typing it. Here's the HTML for our Special Offers section. We start with a section tag with the ID offers and the class offers. This helps us target it in our CSS. Inside, we have a div greater than with the class container to keep everything nicely aligned with the rest of the site. Then, there's an H2 with the class section title for the heading Special Offers single quotes. Next, we add a div with the class offers grid. This will hold our offer cards in a grid layout. Each offer is inside a div with the class offer card. The first card has an H3 heading, buy one get one free, and a P paragraph explaining the deal for Mondays. The second card also has an H3, happy hour, and a paragraph describing the discount between 4 p.m. and 6 p.m. daily, as we see. Now, let's go into our CSS file to style this section. We start with .offers, giving it a light coffee cream background color #FE0B2 and padding 5OPX0 to add space above and below the section. For .offers -grid, we use display grid with grid template columns set to repeat autofit, min-max to 5OPX. 1FR, this makes the layout flexible and responsive, automatically adjusting the number of columns based on screen size. We also add a gap of 20 pixels between cards. Each .offer -card has a white background. 20 pixels of padding, centered text, rounded corners with border radius. 1 OPX and a softbox shadow to make it stand out. We also add a transition so it animates smoothly on hover. The .offers H3 heading text is given a coffee brown color #BB601A to match the theme. On .offer -card :hover. We add a pointer cursor and a transform translity 5px effect so the card moves slightly downward when hovered, adding an interactive touch. Now, let's see what our next section is. It's the testimonials section. Let's jump into our HTML and start typing it. We start with a section greater than tag, giving it the ID testimonials and the class testimonials so we can style it later. Inside, there's a div with the class container to keep the layout consistent with the rest of the site. Then we have an H to greater than, with the class section title for the heading, what our customers say single quotes. Next, there's a div with the class testimonial grid. This will be used to arrange the testimonials in a nice layout. Each testimonial is inside its own div with the class testimonial. Inside each one, we have a P paragraph containing the customer's review and a span showing the customer's name. We repeat this same structure for 3 testimonials, Sarah J., Michael B., and Emma L**. Let's go ahead and style this section. First, testimonials gets padding, 5OPX0 to add space above and below the whole section. For .testimonial -grid, we use display grid with grid template columns set to repeat. Autofit, min-max to 5OPX, 1FR. This makes the layout responsive, adjusting the number of columns depending on screen size. We also add a gap of 20 pixels between each testimonial card. Each testimonial has a light coffee cream background #FFF3E0. 20 pixels of padding inside, and rounded corners with border radius, 10px. We also set the text to font style, italic, to give it a quote-like feel, and add a soft box shadow so it stands out from the background. Let's see what our next section is. It's the contact section. Let's type it into our HTML. We start with a section greater than tag, giving it the ID contact and the class's contact and container to style it and keep the layout consistent. Inside, we have an H2 with the class section title for the heading contact us single quotes. Below that, there's a form element where users can send us a message. Inside the form, we have an input greater than of type text for the user's name, and another input greater than of type email for their email address, both marked as required. Then we add a text area greater than for the message itself, also required. Finally, there's a button with the class BTN and the text send message to submit the form. Let's go ahead and style this section. First, contact form is set to display grid with a gap of 15 pixels between elements. We also set a max width of 500 pixels and use margin auto to center the form on the page, 4. Contact input and .contact text area. We add 10 pixels of padding for comfortable typing space. Give them a light gray border with 1px solid #CCC and rounded corners using border radius 5px. The contact button has its border removed and a cursor pointer so it feels clickable. Finally, the #contact ID gets a margin bottom of 30 pixels to add space below the section before the footer. We're almost done. We just have the footer left. But before this, do not forget to like and subscribe. Let's fly into our HTML. We start with the footer tag, which contains all our footer content. Inside, we have a div with the classes footer container and container. This keeps the footer's layout consistent with the rest of the site. First, there's a p tag showing the copyright 2025 Coffee Hub. All rights reserved by Mahmoud. Then we have a div with the class social links containing 3a greater than links, each wrapping an img greater than tag for the social media icons, Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. These give visitors quick access to our social media pages. Let's go ahead and style our footer. We start with the footer selector, giving it a dark coffee brown background hash for E3 for 2E, white text color, and padding 20px0 to add space above and below the content. We also set text align center so everything is nicely centered. For .social links img, we set the height to 25 pixels, add margin 10px 5px for spacing between icons and a transition. Transform 0.3 seconds so hover effects are smooth. On .social links img hover, we use transform scale 1.2 to make the icons slightly enlarge when hovered, giving them a nice interactive feel. Finally, let's add some responsive styling so our website looks good on smaller screens. We're using a media query at media max width 768px. This means the styles inside will only apply when the screen width is 768 pixels or less. First, we set about to flex direction columns so the text and image stack vertically instead of side by side on smaller devices. Then, we reduce the .hero text H1 font size to rem so the heading fits nicely without overflowing. And that's how you can bring this design to life, fast, clean, and professional. If you enjoyed this, smash that like button, drop a comment, and make sure to subscribe for more epic web design tutorials. Your next project starts right here. Let's go!